Hello, welcome to the Tall and the Short of It with
Betsy
and Jenny. Sorry we've been on a break for a while, but had originally planned to go live last Sunday, and then that didn't work out because somebody forgot me. That was me.
Well,
and
let's
so I was
just say we took a break for Christmas.
We did, and so now we decided since it's almost New Year, we should at least do one more before the year is out.
See, it's not telling us who's on anymore.
I know, it's really strange. Yeah. Facebook has done some weird updates.
We'll talk about that.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
There's somebody. Great. Hello. So, we are going to finish up our month on behavior and behavior plans and behaviors. Today talking about secondary behavior plans. Because we talked about elementary last time we were live.
And I will say this is more her area of expertise. I taught middle school, but you taught it for much longer than I did.
Well, and I had a lot more kids with secondary behavior plans. I mean, you said you had the ED kids for the district, but I don't think we had very many that were in middle and high school back then.
Nope.
So they were not quite as frequent as they are now.
No, and that's something that's very interesting that we've talked about, even as we've moved from like district to district, because since we've started teaching together, we've been in 3 different districts, and it's so interesting to see the number of disabilities, like the types and number of disabilities. It ranges. It's very interesting.
It's definitely a different. Hey, Darcy. Hey, Jake. It's definitely a different culture in every district, for sure.
And it does also change because we've been doing this for a few years.
Right. Well, and diagnoses have gotten a lot better for kids these days as well. So on with behavior plans for secondary education. So last time we started out with a purpose, so we're going to start again with a purpose. Because in most middle and high schools, you're either going to have a block schedule or you're going to have a traditional 7-period day. So block scheduling may be 90-minute blocks, or they may do the 4-block or 8-block. There's all different kinds of ways they do it. But the majority of the districts that I'm aware of still are on a traditional 7-period day. And so you're going to have anywhere from 4 to 7 teachers throughout your school day that all have to have a plan they can use with consistency. And then on top of those 7 teachers, they may have a TOR that they may not even have in class. Their teacher of record.
I was going to say, your teacher of record, TOR is what we say for teacher of record, which is the person that's writing the IEP, making the plan, is in charge of all of that.
It's their special ed point person. So we either really could be up to 8 or even 9 people that, depending on if they have speech or, things like that, that could be on their team. So having a plan that can be used consistently across adults is really important. So the most common plans that I see for behavior in middle and high school, because you'd think by that age that they would learn how to behave in school. How many of you have heard that before? You'd think by that age they'd know how to behave in school. They've been going to school for a long time. Well, every new year is a new challenge for kids with emotional disabilities and kids who have behavior problems. They have to learn what's the new norms, what's the new, what will teachers tolerate and what won't they.
We often call things like the unspoken curriculum, things they have to navigate, figuring out those social pieces with both adults and the number of students that are a part of,
absolutely
their day.
And now instead of just being with one teacher all day, now they're having a different person's norms and what they can tolerate and all that every single period of the day. And it can be quite a challenge.
Well, and something that you will bring up, I think we put in here, is relationships are such a huge part of that, but it is difficult. You don't have as much time as an adult. You don't have as much time with that student to work on building those relationships. So
and we're definitely going to come back to that with some ideas.
But that's a lot of there's a lot of relationship building at the beginning for everyone. So that can be difficult. That can be challenging for everybody.
Right. And just as a caution, I know a lot of times elementary teachers may tell you, if you're the middle school special ed teacher, oh my gosh, wait, guess who's coming to you? Or, those kinds of things. So they give you these preconceived notions about students. But I challenge you not to buy into those things and to make your own judgments when you get a new student in middle or high school, because even from district to district, a different district, your kid may move in and they're like, oh, wait till you get a load of this kid. And then we get them and they behave completely differently here. So depending on their home situation, depending on their level of support they have in this new place, or depending on whether or not they even like the people they're working with, their behavior may be totally different.
And one thing that is nice is it is easy to look at having that many adults, a child having that many adults throughout a day as a challenge, but it can also be a good thing, because if they get a teacher that they just do not, that relationship isn't happening, they, a lot of times, we don't realize we've maybe triggered something and they've shut down on us. Anything like that, they're with them for a shorter period of time. So you have multiple startovers within the day. Because when a child's with you all day long, it's kind of hard. You as an adult may say, okay, in your mind, or be like, all right, we're starting over. But it's hard for them to do that. I've thought a lot, or, come up with that a lot, that's a very mature thing that we expect kids to do. We're not. I'm not good at it.
Right.
Like when I'm at, we usually have space.
Yes.
Before we're able to move on. And so I think that in some cases it's good that a student, like if there's an incident in first period, giving them that change to second period, hopefully, hey, it's new teacher, new class, we can start over. Put some space before that they come back to that teacher. So
right. And I think the things that are most challenging for students are, number one, following adult directions. Kids who have emotional disabilities tend to be more oppositional. They tend to maybe look like they're ignoring you sometimes. And most of the time they did hear you, just letting you know. But then they also, when pushed, tend to react with inappropriate comments or disrespect. Sometimes swearing, sometimes, just things come out of their mouth that are inappropriate to be said in school. And so these two are the big ones that most interfere. They're the most common things that interfere with them being in that general education classroom and staying the whole period. We really need to help teachers understand that if these things are in their behavior plan, these are things they already struggle with. They're part of the disability. They're what we're working on. So help us teach them the appropriate things to say to you in your classroom, or what's okay, how much wait time is what you'll allow in your classroom. If you ask them to do something, you're going to say it to them, you're going to walk away, and then they have so much time to comply with that direction. But I think the thing that we do as teachers that's super annoying to kids like this is we hover. And we need to do fly-by discipline. We need to come up and we're like, okay, I'm going to need you to get on the right page in the book with us, and we need to walk away. And we need to not hover over the top of them expecting immediate response.
Well, and it also gives them some control.
Yeah, because it just creates a power struggle. And that's the last thing you want to do with a student with an emotional disability, because they literally do not care about whether or not you're happy with if they're doing it fast enough, or with,
And then again, that's not going to help build that relationship.
It's not, definitely. So give them a direction, walk away, give them so much wait time, check back in, do you need help? Walk away, but don't hover with kids because it just is going to escalate. And that's the big thing I tell people. I tell teachers, paraprofessionals, if it's escalating the behavior, stop doing that immediately. Just stop. And sometimes it's okay to just let the kids sit there and do nothing in your class, because it's avoiding a power struggle, a conflict. And the thing I hear the most from teachers is, but then the other kids are going to see that I didn't do anything, and that's not fair. Well, what I always told my kids was, a fair is a place where you ride rides and eat cotton candy, and in my class, kids get what they need. So it's not your business what I'm doing with another student. I will take care of it. You just may not know about it, and that's because it's none of your business. So even if I don't address it at that moment, I'm definitely addressing it. It just may not be during your class period to disrupt my teaching.
Well, and that's probably the best way to go about it anyways, because, you know, what do they say? Praise loudly and like discipline, or, you know, quietly.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes it is okay to let them sit there and do absolutely nothing with their head down, and just so they don't get kicked out, because guess what? They're hearing everything you're teaching. They're still getting your content. No, they're not behaving the way you want them to, but that's a you problem. That's not a them problem. Okay? And you can deal with them in a time that's private and at another time. Like you said, that's not something you want to disrupt your entire class and your teaching with.
What you're doing should follow the plan.
Right. Now, if it's a school rule, like you can't have your hood up.
Yeah.
Those are some things that when you stand at the door and you greet your students, if he comes up to your door with his hood up, say, hey buddy, what's the school rule? We got to have our hood down. You know, but do it in a positive way. It's teaching. It's not, you got your hood up again, you're in trouble. You know, so giving them that chance to correct the behavior is always appropriate. So sometimes though, we have those kids that are just fine in class, right? They'll sit through all their classes and be just fine, but they can't handle passing periods, lunchtime, before and after school, the bus, those kinds of things, which we call unstructured time, right? Because in the classroom we have structure. There's something that happens, there's an agenda, there, you know, all of that is laid out.
Your classes typically ran kind of, for the most part, the same way.
Pretty much the same.
You have the same agenda for each day. You're not doing the same thing, but you kind of run the same way. But yeah.
Exactly. But you never know who's going to be at their locker, or who's going to be in the hallway, or, you know, those kinds of things. Or, you know, there's just all kinds of random things that are less closely supervised when you have those unstructured times of the day. So those behavior plans may have to look totally different. You may have a kid who has to leave class a little before the other kids and go to their locker and get their stuff and come back before the bell rings, so they're not in the hall with other kids because they just can't handle it. And you may have a kid who he's allowed to eat in the lunchroom as long as he has good behavior. If he has a poor behavior, then the next day he's not allowed to eat in the I mean, you just have to you have to work with them on those kinds of things. If they're things they want to be able to do, then you work the behavior plan to deal with the specific issue that they have. I mean, and maybe it's just the bus. So maybe you have a bus plan that, you know, if they have so many days with no behavior on the bus, then they get whatever from you. So you just have to try things until you find something that they want. And those forced choice reinforcer surveys work for secondary kids too. You can find out if they like tangibles or adult attention or things from peers or whatever. So the biggest and toughest cases though are the ones that are all the time. They're in the classroom, they're in unstructured times. So sometimes it's difficult to pick the one behavior of concern. Right. And you have to have a plan that's kind of laid out for each. Yeah. So, but just some things to remember as you're writing those plans. So I'll let you talk first a little bit about proactive. Well,
you just, one of the big pieces about any behavior plan is everything has to be so clearly defined that you can hand the plan to someone and they don't, because you're going to pretend that they're not going to be able to ask you questions. I always write it as if they're leaving me, you know, I'm not going to be around them. And so everything has to be so clearly defined. And talk about what things look like, what, you know, what that exactly looks like. So clearly defining even proactive steps for the adults to preventing the behavior. Clearly define that, maybe give examples. And then again, like clearly presenting what to do when the behavior does occur. So you've been proactive, but that doesn't always, I love that I move my hands and nobody can see them over here. You've been proactive, but that doesn't always, I mean, in a perfect world it would work, but doesn't always. So,
well, and especially since you can have up to 7 or 8 different people that are need to use the same plan, it's a lot of times really good to be able to sit down with each of those people at the beginning of the school year and go through the plan and make sure they understand how to use it. And that really, anytime a student is in trouble in the secondary level, the very first thing you should always ask is, does this student have a plan? And did I follow it?
Yeah.
Because if you don't follow a student's behavior plan and they get sent to the office or whatever, then you literally can't follow through with a lot of the different punishments because you didn't follow the plan. So that's a violation of their IEP. So super important that everyone knows the plan and is able to follow it. In fact, I used to make a laminated copy to give to the assistant principal, whoever was in charge of discipline, and so they could keep it at their desk, to be able to take a look at it if that kid actually gets sent to them by someone other than me, which in the 10 years I taught middle school, I can count on one hand the number of times I sent a kid to the office. So you're able to do it. It's all about those relationships.
I don't know that I ever did. I know 2 of them sent themselves to the office for fighting outside my door. But they didn't say a word. When I opened the door, they looked at me. Well, they did say a word. I didn't say a word. I opened the door and looked at them. And they just both walked their way to that. I don't know that. Other than that, I don't know that I ever did.
In fact, one of my students had a behavior plan that literally said that if I needed a break from that student, I would ask him to go sit in the waiting area of the office where he would be supervised. And I instructed the principal not to do anything. Just let him sit there and give it like 10, 15 minutes and then send him back. He's not in trouble. Just, I needed a break.
I know who that is.
He was tough. He was one of my toughest, but also one of the most rewarding in the end. So also, and the other thing about office referrals, you really should define what constitutes an office referral for the student because they need to understand that. Like sometimes I mean, if I would have sent my kids to the office every single time they called me a bad name, like it would have been every day. So those were not reasons I had them go to the office. Like I literally would ask them, do I talk to you that way? That was my response if they would say something really disrespectful. And usually most of my kids would be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And I'd say, do you want to try again? And then then that was it. That's where we left it. And that was the kind of relationship we had. But because I knew those were issues for them, that's something that, maybe was a survival skill in their household.
I was going to say, and if that's what they're hearing, that's what's being modeled for them. And what I mean by that is like, when you're in a situation where you're uncomfortable or you're upset, they're being like, the models for them are, this is how you respond.
Exactly.
And, so
when you have parents who scream or parents who swear or you feel unsafe in your situation, those are some of the behaviors that can be intimidating enough to others so that you're okay. Like like I said, it's real survival skills in a traumatic environment. So, but I was always very clear about what was an office referral and what was not. Most of the time it was just send him to me, let me take care of it. Because I was teaching behavior. At the same time, I was talking through that with them and working through it with them. So if a break card, sometimes the kids need a break. And not just the teacher, but sometimes the kids need a break.
You're teaching them using a break card is teaching them to recognize, okay, I need to get myself out of this situation or it's going to escalate.
Right.
And so it's a way to give them an out.
Right. That ownership or escape that they need.
And a lot of times we don't even expect verbal. They like literally can just hold
show you the card and go.
So and there's a place they go. Like it's not like they just go and do.
This is very appropriate for kids on the autism spectrum that really struggle with language when they're frustrated. To know that they can have this card that they can hold up and then go to a safe spot where they can calm down and get themselves back together. Kids with emotional disabilities, same thing. If they know if I open my mouth right now, I'm going to be in trouble. So I can show the break card and I can get calmed down until I can get myself back to class. Nope, you're fine. So, but clearly define where that student is allowed to go, somewhere where they will be supervised.
Yes.
Because they can't just go hide in the bathroom. That's not appropriate. Like, we've had kids that wanted to do that when they were upset. I'm going to escape and run to the bathroom and hide in a stall. Well, that's not somewhere where we can supervise them or make sure that they're safe. So having a spot that the kid agrees on, that this is where I will go. And then if that person's not there to supervise me, where's my secondary backup plan? So there has to be at least 2 places that the student can go. For some reason, let's say it was guidance and that guidance counselor's out that day. They need another spot that they can go. Always having that point person for the break is really important. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say we need, like, you need to make sure everyone has a copy of the plan. Meaning, and not just the teachers that see that student throughout the day, but also if there's aides or paras, also administrators, principal, assistant, all of that, counselors. And then sometimes, especially if it's we talked about, like, if it's in the hallway during passing periods, well, then there are, like when we taught middle school, there are teachers that they may not even teach their grade level that are out there in the hallway.
Doing supervision.
They need to know that. So it's one of those, or like the librarians and just, whoever.
Lunch supervisors, cafeteria people.
And so just making sure that everyone has a copy of it, understands it, and then making sure that those people also know who the main point person is, that teacher of record typically.
Because the biggest thing that used to upset me as a teacher of record for a student with a disability is when something would happen with one of my students and another teacher would take care of it and then they wouldn't tell me. That was very upsetting to me because I can't address it with the student hi baby girl, I'm sorry, my kitty came in. But I couldn't address it with that student if hold on, she just wants love. Say hello, Callie. Say hello. Yes, that's right. She realized we were here. But you can't address it as a teacher with that student if you don't, know about it.
Right.
And that was frustrating to me if that would happen and then they did not tell me.
Yes.
Yes. So back to relationships are everything, kind of as our final point.
I was going to say, and we need to.
Yes. I always tried when I was creating schedules for my student for the following school year to make sure, hey, I'm going to put them with this teacher because I think they'll get along really well. It's okay to pair kids up with teachers that you think will click and that work well with students with emotional disabilities or behavioral issues. Involve them in any kind of school of things that are part of the school community, sports, clubs. If they're really into art, make sure they have an art class. If they're really into music, make sure they can still do band or, whatever they want to do, because you want them to have a reason to be at school, because sometimes behavior problems turn into attendance issues in the secondary level. So we want them to have a reason to want to be at school, and we don't want it to turn into an attendance issue. And then just advocating for them. They have to know you're on their side even when they're in trouble. That you're there for them, that it's going to be okay. Tomorrow's going to be a clean slate, that relationship is still there. You may be the only person in that kid's life that they trust. And so just being that advocate for them and having them always know you care about them and that you're going to help them, start over tomorrow is really important.
Well, and I see you have like checking in every day. We had a group of, when we taught middle school, we had a group of kids, and maybe 5 that started their day first period with me. And I'm not saying they always started it positively, don't get me wrong, but it was also, I had worked on that relationship and built that. And so we started our day like getting homework done, and it was our resource period. But also knowing they're starting their day with continuing to work on that relationship, and it's not instantly like an expectation, like an academic expectation. Like I said, we were doing usually homework and stuff, but maybe we spent that time working through what happened the night before. So maybe, trying to, and I'm not saying everyone can always do that with their schedules, but checking in first thing is good too, because you get a read on what the day might be like.
Check-in, check-out systems or research-based interventions that are really great, where you have that check-in person first thing to gauge their emotional state. Are they coming in a way that they can accept, academics right now? And then at the end of the day, checking in to see how the day went and set goals for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And then if a teacher and a student have a bad day together, like something happens in that teacher's class and there is a mess, find a way, and it may not be that same day, but find a way to help that teacher and that child repair that relationship. It's called Therapeutic Rapport when we're trained through CPI. But you have to reestablish that, because if not, what's going to happen is the child will now see that person as an enemy, as a threat.
They will carry that with them.
They hold grudges. Kids with emotional disabilities are really good at that.
And they may not let it be shown, but it's there.
So you have to make sure that they understand, I made a mistake. Everything's good now. We have a clean slate. That they're not thinking the teacher's going to be picking on them from now on, or that kind of thing. Because if they believe that teacher is against them, then behavior problems are just going to escalate in there, and it's going to be continuous over and over and over again. So don't let it get out of hand. Make sure that teacher and student repair that relationship if at all possible.
And it may not be something that can occur in one instant. I mean, it may be an ongoing, an ongoing thing.
Right. And it can be small things, by having that teacher notice, hey, buddy, I really like your shoes today. Or, just things that have nothing to do with school. Noticing a haircut. Great, you did great at the wrestling match last night. Whatever. Yeah. But helping them find a way to connect with that child. Again, that's not school.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, kids in middle and high school tend to live in the moment. They're very egocentric. They're only about themselves. They don't really see how their behavior affects other things. And they aren't looking long term at what their behavior now how it could affect them later. And many of them are in a mindset that they can't change, or that they can't be a successful person later in life. So help them set long-term goals. Help them set short-term goals for how to get to those long-term goals. And a lot of that's done through the transition planning, knowing what they want to be after high school, or what they would like to do when they leave the 12 years that is school, or 13. Sometimes that can be what gets them there. Knowing I get to go to the Career Center when I'm in 11th grade. Knowing, if I get these credits, then I can do this. Or, just keeping that in the forefront of their minds, and not always just, because for them, sometimes it's day to day, especially the ones that are in bad home situations. Just helping them keep their eye on the prize, and giving them the positive affirmation that they may not be getting. Just really huge. All right. Well, that's it. I hope we gave you some things to chew on and things to think about for secondary behaviors. So do you want to start with kind of what we've been thinking?
Well, just we haven't got into detail with our planning, but just know that there probably will be some changes with our lives, because Facebook has made some changes. Two, because of our new jobs, we are finding it hard to get together, because now we have to be together. We can't. And so, and we both have outside of our job things going on too.
Right. Well, our hours are different. We're in different buildings now.
And we actually both of us have more than one job too. We have
other jobs that we do on top of this.
Because, education. So,
but that doesn't mean we're going anywhere.
No.
It just means things may look a little different moving forward. But one cool hint we will give you is that I am currently working on putting all of our live videos to date into a YouTube channel. So I believe our channel is called The Tall and Short of It, Education Conversations. I couldn't put the extra "the" in it, said that it was too long.
Oh.
It wouldn't let me make it that long.
That's okay, because when I say it, I always forget it anyway.
So it's The Tall and Short of It, Education Conversations is our YouTube channel. So you can get in there, and I think I have October of 18 through March of 19 up already. And I'm getting ready to start putting April in. But as soon as we're up to date, getting all those videos into YouTube, then we'll probably be also putting a lot of our content in both places, so YouTube and Facebook. So watch for that.
Yes. So, and like I said, it might change a little bit how things look, or how, I don't know. Like I said, we're working on it. We're trying to figure out what works best for us.
Right.
So that we can be consistent.
Right. We've been talking about the length of our videos and if we should do some shorter ones but more frequent, or maybe not all of them live. You know, those kinds of things too.
So, if you guys have any suggestions, please, I don't know, share them.
Send them our way.
Join the conversation.
Because we feel like this work has been important and that we really get a lot out of the relationships we've even made through doing this, the tall and the short of it. So, like I said, any ideas for how we can work around our issues are appreciated. But for now, we are signing off, and we hope you all have a wonderful new year, and we'll see you in 2020.
Bye, guys.
Bye.